Hey guys, my name is Anthony, and in today's video I'm going to be teaching you some of the tricks that I used to learn how to drive without the racing line. So if you want to see more F1 2020 tips similar to this, make sure to hit the like button and stick around by subscribing to the channel. So let's get into it. So what exactly is the racing line assist? Well, the racing line assist is an assist that basically is a green line across the road that tells you exactly where you need to go and gives you the safest route throughout the track. And then when you're approaching a braking zone, it will turn into an orangey sort of color and then quickly into a red color to basically tell you you're about to hit a corner, slow the car down. So why is that actually a hindrance to your lap times when it comes to F1 2020? Well, the simple reason is because it doesn't give you all the options. It is basically the safest way around the track. It doesn't let you know exactly when you should brake. Even though it does turn red, it usually turns red way sooner than you actually need to brake. And similar to acceleration as well, you can actually accelerate out of corners a lot sooner than it usually would tell you. And again, it's not the safe, it's just the safest way through the corner, so you can definitely approach the corner in a different way if you try and have the racing line off, because usually no matter how much you try to not follow the racing line when you've got it on, you're instinctively going to follow it whether you like it or not. So turning off the racing line will be a huge benefit to you and your lap times moving forward. So here's some of the tricks that I personally used when I took the racing line off. So the first tip, which is the one that I did, is I simply just took the racing line off completely and tried to learn the game without the racing line. Basically what I did is I turned off the racing line assist, then I went on YouTube and searched for different type of hot lap videos and stuff like that on F1 2019 just to see where other people were braking, and then I would learn each braking point one at a time. Yes, it is a pretty slow method, but if you really want to improve your lap times, this is probably one of the best ways to do it, just to simply learn each corner as it comes. And when it comes to each track, because I know some people might be thinking, well, if I'm going to learn all the tracks, which tracks do I start with? Prioritize the tracks. If you have a race coming up in your career mode at, say, Zandvoort, or if you have a league race coming up at, say, Mexico, then prioritize that track and learn that track now, and you can worry about some of the other tracks as they come in through your league racing season or through your career mode season. So pretty much just prioritize whatever track you're racing now. And also, don't worry if you do end up taking off the racing line assist and you need to turn it back on, because I actually did that. If you go and look at some of my older F1 2019 videos, in fact the very first F1 2019 video I made, I wasn't using the racing line, but then you move forward a little bit into some of my videos and you'll see that the racing line's back on. And what I did is, when I was playing against the AI, usually I would turn it off, and then until I felt a little bit more comfortable using it, not using it online, I still used it online just in case I needed it against other drivers. So if you do feel as if you do need the racing line on, don't be afraid to turn it back on, but maybe just put the corners on and then continue to learn offline without the assist, and then when you feel a little bit more comfortable, you can transition into taking the racing line off online as well. So the next thing I really want you guys to focus on is how each corner works. There are different type of corners, and you're going to have to place your car, brake and do stuff in a different manner depending on the type of corner. I already mentioned this in more detail in my guide of how to drive faster without assist, so make sure to hit the link at the top right hand side of the screen if you want to see that in more detail. But quickly for now, basically what you want to do ideally is you want to be on the outside of the track going into a corner, then you want to swoop in towards the apex, and then you want to position your car back on the outside of the track to make sure that your car is going straight as much as possible, because F1 cars are pretty much at their quickest when they're in a straight line. So you want to make sure that you're doing as least amount of turning as possible, and that's the best way to get through a corner usually. But there are different type of corners that, you know, sort of work differently. For example, a hairpin might need a late apex if it's a sort of really tight one, or if it's a sort of long flowing hairpin corner, you might need to take a double apex approach, for example, and stuff like that. Really important that you learn how each corner works. And chicanes, you don't even usually want to prioritize the first corner, you want to prioritize the exit of the second corner, because that's usually followed by a straight. So again, make sure that you learn how each corner works, and I guarantee you guys, once you learn that, you'll start to see yourself get a little bit better with driving without assists. So the last tip that I have for you guys when it comes to taking off the racing line is the most difficult one for most people, and it's really braking. When it comes to using the racing line, let's be honest, most of you don't use the racing line line because you don't know where to go on the track. You do know where to go on the track to some extent, you don't know where to brake on the track, and that's what you really struggle with. So when it comes to braking without the racing line, you need to use static static objects around the track. So what do I mean by that? I mean stuff like 100-meter boards or 50-meter boards, or just general meter boards. I mean sort of like the black boxes that you can see sometimes around the track. For example, there's a black box right on top of the 100-meter board when it comes to Austria going into turn 3, so that if the 100-meter board was to break, you still have a static reference point to use. And there's other stuff that you can use. There's dark patches on the road, there's light patches on the road, there could be light patches off the road and everything like that. One thing I recommend is that you do not use stuff like shadows as braking points. Reason being is because the time of day can change during a race on F1 2020, which means the shadow's position can change as well. So it's not really good to use something that's a bit more dynamic. You want to use reference points that are static, and that's usually like patches on the road or patches off the road. It's usually stuff like the meter boards, it's stuff like the black boxes that you may see. You can even use giant billboards as braking points. For example, going into turn 4, I believe, in Spain, Catalonia, I usually use the big yellow billboard right above your head as you're going into a corner as my braking point. So again, when it comes to driving without the racing line, you want to learn your braking points, and you want to use static reference points and not reference points that are more dynamic like shadows. And other than that, all I have to really say to you guys is to practice. You're not going to learn how to drive without the racing line if you continue to drive with it on, so just turn it off and continue to practice. Even if you're failing right now, I mean, you can turn it back on if you really are struggling, but I personally advise to keep it off and keep pursuing driving without the racing line, because that's pretty much what happened to me when I first started realizing, okay, I'm about to start league racing, I want to league race without the racing line. I just continued to practice, and eventually I got it. I started to learn other things similar to what I've talked about today when it comes to the braking points and stuff like that. So yeah, just practice. That's really all I've got to say for you guys. So if you want to see more videos similar to this, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I post mainly F1 tip videos, F1 track guides and stuff like that for you guys, so that you can learn how to drive without assist. So I'll see you guys in the next video.